We should have waited until morning to move in. But excitement overruled our caution. And in the rush of unloading boxes beneath a bruised, midnight sky, we didn't notice the thing watching us from the trees. Something came with us. Something old. Something hungry. This is the story of the night we moved into our dream home and met the thing that refused to stay behind. Body. The move was sudden but welcome. After years of scraping by in a one-bedroom apartment in the city, Claire and I had finally caught a break. Her aunt had passed away unexpectedly, leaving behind an old house in the countryside. The inheritance was a surprise, and the timing couldn't have been better. The house was big, rustic, sure, a little worn, definitely, but charming, with wraparound porches, a sloped tin roof, and a backyard that opened to a thick, wild forest. Claire loved it immediately. She said it reminded her of summers with her aunt, picking blackberries, catching fireflies, and telling ghost stories under the stars. We arrived later than planned. The moving van got delayed, and by the time we pulled into the gravel driveway, it was already close to midnight. Claire insisted we at least move the essentials in mattress, a couple boxes, the coffee maker. Our friends Ryan and Jess had volunteered to help us unpack, despite the late hour. "Let's just do it quick," Jess said, yawning, "before something out there gets us." She was joking, of course. At the time, the air was thick with that strange quiet only deep woods seemed to hold. Not silence exactly, more like the absence of the right sounds. No crickets, no frogs, just the low hum of the van's engine and the crunch of gravel beneath our feet. As we lugged boxes up the creaking porch steps, I caught something move at the edge of the woods. A flicker, a shape, there and gone. "Probably a deer," I muttered, though it didn't feel like it. The porch light above the door flickered weakly, like it was trying to warn us. We stepped inside for the first time in years. The air was stale, dust heavy in the glow of our phone flashlights. Every floorboard groaned beneath our feet. The house felt not abandoned, but paused, like it had been holding its breath for someone to come back. We set the mattress down in what used to be Claire's aunt's bedroom. I went back out to grab another box, but paused at the front door. It was open, not wide, just slightly, like someone had followed me and slipped inside quietly. I looked back at Ryan. "Did you leave the door open?" He shook his head. "I thought you did." I frowned, pushing it shut and locking it this time. But as soon as the bolt clicked into place, we all heard it. 3 knocks, from inside the house, upstairs. We froze. Jess's eyes widened. "Tell me that was you messing around." Ryan looked at me. "Dude, do you have neighbors?" "Closest one's a mile out," I said, barely above a whisper. The 4 of us crept toward the staircase. Each step groaned like it was protesting our presence. We reached the second floor landing. It was colder up here, noticeably. The hallway stretched ahead of us, doors on either side. The knocking had come from the room at the end. Claire reached for the handle. I grabbed her wrist. "Don't!" But she was already turning the knob. The room was empty, dusty. Just a few old chairs stacked in the corner and a moth-eaten curtain fluttering from an open window. "Guess it was just the wind," Claire said, trying to sound braver than she looked. But it wasn't the wind. There were no trees near the second floor window. No branches to scrape. No breeze strong enough to make a knock like that. We went back downstairs, a nervous kind of laughter buzzing between us. We cracked open beers and tried to shake it off. At some point, Jess excused herself to the bathroom. A few minutes passed, then more. "Did she get lost?" Ryan asked, standing up. "It's a small house." We found the bathroom door slightly ajar. Inside, the light flickered above the mirror. Jess stood perfectly still in front of the sink, staring at her reflection. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "Jess?" Claire asked softly. Jess didn't move. Ryan reached for her shoulder, and she suddenly gasped, stumbling back like she had been shocked. "What happened?" I asked, heart pounding. Jess pointed to the mirror. Her voice came out small, cracked. "It smiled at me," she whispered. "My reflection. It smiled before I did." We all stared at the mirror. Nothing but 4 tired, confused faces staring back at us. The flickering light stopped. Silence. We decided to call it a night. Ryan and Jess stayed in the guest room downstairs. Claire and I lay side by side on the bare mattress, both pretending to sleep. But sleep didn't come. Around 3:17 a.m., I heard the front door creak open. I sat up, heart racing. Claire stirred beside me. "What is it?" "Stay here," I whispered. I grabbed the flashlight and tiptoed down the stairs. The front door stood wide open. The night outside was pitch black. I stepped onto the porch, shining the light across the yard. The forest looked closer somehow, as if it had crept forward in the night. That's when I saw it. A figure, at the edge of the trees, too tall, too thin, and completely still. His head tilted unnaturally sideways. It didn't move, didn't flinch as I shined the light directly on it. It just stood there, watching. I shut the door and locked it again, making sure the bolt slid fully into place. When I turned around, I nearly screamed. Ryan stood at the bottom of the stairs. "Something's walking around the house," he said, voice shaking. "Outside. It passed by the window twice." I nodded. I saw it too. We kept watch for the rest of the night. No more knocks, no more flickers. But just before dawn, Claire screamed. We ran upstairs to find her standing by the bedroom window. "It's on the roof," she cried. We looked where she pointed. Just for a moment, we saw it. Something scuttling over the sloped tin surface. Pale limbs, too many joints. A face like melted wax. Then it was gone. We waited for sunrise before stepping outside again. No footprints. No broken branches. No signs that anything had ever been there. But as we loaded the last of the boxes inside later that day, I noticed something strange. Mud. Inside the hallway. Footprints. Bare. Thin. Leading from the door to the basement. We hadn't been down there yet. And whatever followed us into our new home, it hadn't come from the forest after all. It had come up from below. The footprints weren't just damp. They were fresh. I crouched down, examining the smeared trail of mud leading across the wooden hallway floor. Each print was narrow and elongated, toes slightly pointed inward, almost animalistic, but unmistakably human. I called out for Claire. She came slowly, still shaken from what she'd seen on the roof. Her eyes followed the prints to the basement door, her hand flying instinctively to her mouth. "Did you go down there?" I asked. She shook her head. "I didn't even know the house had a basement." Neither did I, but the footprints were real. They started from the front door, weaved through the hallway, and ended at the old wooden door tucked beneath the staircase. A door I could have sworn wasn't there last night. We stood before it, listening. Nothing. No movement. No breathing. Just the soft creak of the house settling, or maybe something else. Ryan joined us, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What's going on now?" Claire pointed to the door. "There are footprints. They lead down." He squinted. "You guys didn't come in with muddy shoes?" "No one did," I said. "We locked the door. Whatever left these." It was already inside. The door handle looked rusted, like it hadn't been touched in years. But when I turned it, it moved freely. No resistance. The door creaked open to reveal a narrow staircase that descended into pitch darkness. The smell hit us immediately. Moist earth, mold, and something metallic, like old blood. Jess appeared at the top of the stairs behind us. "Are we seriously going down there? After last night? We have to know what we're dealing with," Claire whispered. I flicked on my flashlight. Just a quick look. We descended slowly, the stairs groaning beneath our weight. Each step was worse than the last. Thick webs brushed our faces, and the walls felt damp and uneven. The deeper we went, the colder it became. When we reached the bottom, my light illuminated a low, cavernous space. The basement was larger than expected, with stone walls and an uneven dirt floor. Old furniture was stacked in one corner, covered in tattered white sheets. Broken tools and gardening equipment littered the space. But what caught our attention was the far wall. Symbols, carved deep into the stone. Strange, looping glyphs arranged in spirals and intersecting lines. They looked ancient, wrong, almost alive. Some were smeared with something dark that had long dried to a crusty brown. Claire stepped closer, squinting. These weren't here when I was a kid. My aunt never mentioned anything like this. Jess stood frozen. This looks like ritual stuff. Ryan ran a hand along one of the carvings. A cult? Maybe just some freaky art from the previous owner. No, Claire whispered. My aunt was the previous owner. Then we noticed the hole. It sat in the far left corner, partially covered by a rotting piece of plywood. A round, perfectly cut tunnel, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. The inside was pitch black. Damp air wafted from it, carrying a scent that made my stomach churn. Is that a drain? Ryan asked, already knowing it wasn't. I knelt and aimed the light into the hole. There were scratch marks along the inside. Long, desperate, and far too recent. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered. Then, from inside the tunnel, we heard it. A dragging sound. Slow, wet. Something was moving toward us. We bolted. Up the stairs, slamming the basement door shut behind us. I twisted the lock hard, only to realize there wasn't a lock. That door was never meant to keep anything out or in. We backed away, breathless. Claire grabbed my arm. I think my aunt knew about this. I think she was hiding it. Ryan rubbed his face. We need to leave, right now. Forget the house, forget the inheritance. Let's get in the van and go. Jess was already halfway to the door when Claire stopped her. There's something you all need to see. She led us into the upstairs hallway to a narrow linen closet. She dug behind the towels and pulled out a small metal box, rusty, locked with a tiny latch. I saw my aunt open this once, she said. She told me never to touch it, that it was for protection. She pried it open. Inside were several items. A black candle burned down to a nub, a small leather-bound book with no title, and a bundle of dried herbs tied with red string. Claire opened the book. The pages were filled with notes, handwritten in a sharp, hurried scrawl. Some entries looked like spells. Others read like warnings. One line, underlined multiple times, caught our attention. The tunnel was here before the house. We built over it, but it never left. Another note read, it watches from the trees until it finds a way back in. Don't let it attach. We all went still. Attach? Jess asked. What does that mean? Claire flipped to the final page. There was a sketch, rough but chilling. A tall, thin figure with a melted face. Joints bent the wrong way, eyes like holes. It's the thing I saw on the roof, she said. Ryan backed away, running a hand through his hair. This is insane. I thought this was just a creepy house. Not whatever the hell this is. Jess turned pale. Guys, what if it did attach to one of us? Her voice trembled. What if it followed me? We all stared at her. What are you talking about? She held up her phone. I took a mirror selfie last night to text my sister. Look, she pulled up the photo. There she was in the bathroom mirror. But behind her, barely visible in the background, was a shadow. Humanoid, twisted, lurking in the corner of the room. But the bathroom was empty. No one was there, Jess whispered. I didn't see anyone. We all stared, silent. Then Claire's phone buzzed. A new message. No number, just a single image. A photo of us standing in the basement earlier that day. But none of us had taken it. We rushed to check our devices. Nothing. No open camera apps. No drafts. No photos taken during that time. I don't like this, Ryan said. We're leaving. Now. We grabbed essentials, ignoring the rest of the unpacked boxes. As we opened the front door, the air outside felt heavier, thicker, like we were stepping into syrup. The woods were darker than before, even in daylight. The trees almost leaned inward. Claire was the last to leave, clutching the book. She glanced back at the hallway. The footprints were gone. The mud had vanished. But in its place, something worse. A message, written in soot across the wall. You brought it with you. We drove away as fast as the van could take us. But something in our minds stayed behind. Or worse, something came with us. Because that night, in the motel room hours away, I woke to the sound of breathing. Slow, heavy, not mine, not Claire's, came from the corner of the room, where the shadows were too thick, where something moved when it thought we weren't looking. And as I reached for the light switch, I realized the thing from the tunnel had never left. It was here, and it was inside. We thought we could escape it, that by leaving the house we'd leave the thing behind. But evil doesn't need walls. It doesn't care about distance. It doesn't stop at the front door. Whatever followed us, still with us. And now it knows our names. The motel was a roadside dump off Highway 48. Peeling paint, buzzing neon, thin walls, we didn't care. All that mattered was that it was far from the house. We crammed into the 2 available rooms, Ryan and Jess in one, Claire and I in the other. We barely spoke. The drive had drained us, not just physically, but mentally. Something about what we'd seen, what we felt, left a weight behind like we were dragging invisible chains. Claire sat on the bed, flipping through her aunt's strange book. I paced, checking the corners of the room, the shadows, the closet. I couldn't stop thinking about the photo on her phone, the one none of us took. The angle, low, close to the ground, was something no human could achieve without lying flat. And then there was the message on the wall. You brought it with you. Claire looked up from the book. Her voice was barely above a whisper. My aunt. She wasn't trying to trap it in the house. She turned the book toward me. She was trying to keep it from escaping. The page showed a crude diagram of the house. Beneath it, in red ink, a circle of symbols. Some matched the ones in the basement. Protective seal. A boundary. Broken now. Claire pointed to the notes. This line says, containment requires residence. My aunt had to live in the house to keep the seal strong. When she died, it got out, I finished. We were never meant to enter that place. And by stepping inside, by moving in, we had unknowingly released it. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between the flickering hum of the motel's neon light outside. Claire eventually drifted off, the book still clutched to her chest. At 3:12 a.m., the doorknob rattled, softly at first, then harder. I shot upright. It wasn't the wind. The lock clicked. I held my breath. The door inched open, just enough to reveal a sliver of the hallway beyond. No one was there. I grabbed the lamp, ready to swing, took slow steps forward, but the hallway was empty. I stepped outside. Cold. Too cold for spring. I turned toward Jess and Ryan's door and stopped. It was open, too, just barely. A soft creak echoed from inside. I knocked. Ryan. No answer. I pushed the door wider. The room was dark except for the TV playing static. Jess was sitting on the edge of the bed, back to me, hair covering her face. Jess. I stepped closer. Her head slowly tilted, and her voice came out in a dull monotone. He's wearing Ryan's skin. What? She turned around. It was Jess, but her eyes were wrong. Too wide, too dark, and her mouth stretched just a bit too far when she smiled. He's wearing it, she whispered, and it fits so well. I backed out of the room, heart hammering. Then I heard Ryan behind me. Dude? You good? I spun. There he was, shirtless, holding a soda, looking half asleep. I looked back at the room. It was empty. No Jess. No static TV. No open door. Just 4 closed walls. Where's Jess? I asked. He blinked. She went out to get some air. Through the window? He shrugged. Guess so. I grabbed my phone. It was dead. So was Claire's. Ryan checked his. Dead. No one's charger was working. Every battery, every outlet. Dead. The motel had lost power. Ryan tried the front desk. No answer. We regrouped in our room. Claire had the book open again, flipping through pages like her life depended on it. She found something. Entities from the rift, the tunnel, they don't enter. They attach. If you see them, if you acknowledge them, they imprint. Like a parasite. Jess came back and then. No shoes. Wet feet. She was pale, shaking. I don't remember leaving, she said. I woke up in the parking lot. My feet are muddy. Ryan helped her onto the bed. You were sleepwalking, maybe? Claire looked up from the book. No, that wasn't her. We all stared. Claire's voice was flat, cold. Whatever that thing is, it's mimicking us. It's testing forms, trying to learn what fits. Jess clutched her head. It's in my dreams. I see the tunnel. I crawl, but it never ends. And there's something behind me, smiling. She looked up at me. When I woke up in the parking lot, it was whispering my name. That night, we stayed awake. Doors locked, lights on. The sun rose, but the motel remained dark. Dead electricity. No staff, no guests. We were completely alone, or so we thought. At noon, we decided to leave. We packed the van in silence, hearts pounding. Every shadow, every reflection, it felt like it watched us. We didn't speak until we were 10 miles out. Then the van died, just like that. No warning. Engine stalled. Electronics failed. Phones dead again. We coasted to a stop on an empty rural road, surrounded by trees. Ryan popped the hood. Batteries fine. Everything looks normal. Claire checked her bag. The book, gone. It was in here, she whispered. I swear. Something shifted in the back of the van. A dragging sound. Jess screamed. We turned to see her trying to open the door. She was clawing at the handle, tears in her eyes. It's here, she cried. In the van. The lights flickered once. The engine coughed. Then silence. We all got out. I turned to look in the back. Empty. But something had been there. Long, black hair snagged in the upholstery. A single, muddy footprint on the floor. It wasn't Jess's. It wasn't any of ours. We walked until we found a gas station. A single employee, an old man named Hector, stared at us like he'd seen ghosts. You from the Crawford house? He asked. We nodded slowly. You should have never gone in there, he said. You know about it? Claire asked. He gave us a hard look. Everyone around here does. That place ain't just haunted. It's cursed. Built over something old. Something no one understands. I stepped forward. We think something followed us. He nodded grimly. It always does. That house don't trap the thing. It attracts it, makes it hungry, and once it sees you, he pointed to his eyes. It don't forget. We begged for help. He gave us a name, Lenora Tews, a woman who lived off-grid, deep in the woods. She's the only one who ever came out of that house alive, he said. But it cost her. We found her cabin after an hour of driving rough dirt roads. She was in her 70s, pale, quiet, with long white hair and a distant stare. You opened the seal, she said the moment we arrived. We nodded. You're marked now, she whispered. Each of you. Can it be undone? Claire asked. Lenora sighed. There's only one way. She walked to a shelf, pulled out an identical leather-bound book. The same one Claire's aunt had. There's a ritual, a severing, but it's dangerous. And if it fails, she didn't finish the sentence. I asked what it required. Return, she said. You must go back to where it started, back to the house, back to the tunnel, and face what followed you. We didn't want to go back, but Lenora was clear. It won't stop unless you confront it. We left her cabin with the book in hand, knowing what came next would be far worse than anything we'd already seen, because the entity didn't just follow us, chose us, and it never chooses unless it intends to keep you. We thought running would save us, that putting miles between us and that cursed house might put an end to the nightmare. But distance means nothing to what we brought out of that place. It knows us now, knows how we think, how we feel. It's in our shadows, our dreams, our reflections. And now we have to go back, to the house, to the tunnel. And this time, not all of us will make it out. We left Lenora's cabin just before dusk, armed with the book, bundles of sage, protective totems, and a crude map she'd drawn for the ritual. Claire rode up front with me, her hands trembling as she flipped through the book's pages. Jess sat silent in the back seat, eyes fixed on the window, whispering something under her breath we couldn't make out. Ryan hadn't spoken since we left the gas station. He just kept clenching and unclenching his fists like he was trying to feel something, or keep something inside. "Ryan, you okay?" I asked, glancing in the rear view. His gaze snapped toward me, too quickly. Then he smiled. "Yeah, man, all good." But it wasn't his smile. Not really. It was too practiced. Claire didn't say anything, but I saw her tighten her grip on the book. The road twisted and narrowed as we neared the house. Trees arched overhead like the ribs of some great beast. The GPS went dead 2 miles out. By the time we pulled up the gravel drive, the sun was sinking behind the trees, bleeding red across the horizon. And there it was, the house, silent, rotten, waiting. We stood at the edge of the yard, none of us moving. Jess broke the silence. "It's inside already. It never left." Claire lit the sage. "Everyone stay close. Don't listen to it. Don't believe what you see." We crossed the threshold together. The air was colder than it should have been, and heavier. The moment we stepped inside, the front door slammed shut. The smell hit me first. Damp wood, old rot, and something sweet, sickly sweet, like spoiled honey. The walls pulsed faintly under our flashlights, shadows sliding like oil across their surfaces. Claire opened the book and read the first incantation aloud. "Nos vidir," said non-Tanhair. "Custodite anima meme." The house groaned. A deep vibration spread through the floor. We started laying the salt circle in the living room, tracing the glyphs around the edges. According to the ritual, we needed to form a containment barrier, draw the entity into it, and sever its link to us before midnight, the hour it first followed us. But the house didn't want to let go. Footsteps echoed from the upstairs hallway. Too fast, too heavy, like hooves on wood. Jess looked up, her voice barely audible. "It's coming." We formed the circle, candles at each point, sage burning at the center. The air thickened, the shadows writhed. Ryan stepped outside the circle to place the final glyph. "Too far. Ryan, get back inside." He paused, his head tilted. Then he turned to us and smiled again. But it wasn't his face anymore. His eyes were black, his mouth stretched impossibly wide. And he laughed. It wasn't a human laugh. It was wet, slithering. The glyph in his hand turned to ash. The salt line broke. The lights died. We screamed as something crashed through the hallway above, plaster falling like snow, followed by a roar so guttural it shook the glass in the windows. Ryan, or whatever had been Ryan, jerked forward, limbs twitching like a broken puppet. Claire grabbed Jess and pulled her into the circle. I reached for the book. Then everything stopped. Still, silent, a breath in the dark. And then, the house began to speak, but not in a voice. In memories. I was 10 years old again, staring at the hospital bed where my father had died. I could smell the antiseptic, hear the beeping monitor. "Why weren't you there?" a voice whispered behind me. I turned. My father stood there, eyes hollow, skin gray. "You promised," he hissed. Then I was 15. My brother's accident. The sound of metal crumpling. His broken body. My fault. Always my fault. The house was inside my head. It was showing me my sins, feeding on regret. I looked around. Jess was sobbing. Claire's lips moved in silent prayer, and the shadows were closing in. We had to break free. "Claire," I shouted, "start the ritual, now." She tore a page from the book, lit it with the sage flame, and threw it into the center of the circle. The flames turned black. The walls shuddered. A scream erupted from the ceiling, followed by a crash as a figure dropped into the room from the attic. It was tall, skeletal, his body twisted like branches pulled in all directions. His face, God, its face. It didn't have one, just a smooth, stretched plane of skin, stitched at the edges, pulsing with every breath. It reached for Jess. I tackled her out of the way as Claire chanted louder, faster. "Exaudi nos spiritus antica, salve vincula tua, relinque nos." The entity howled, staggering into the circle. The black flames surged up, licking at its limbs. It convulsed, screeching in fury as its arms dissolved like smoke. Then the house groaned, louder than before. Angry, the front door exploded inward. A wind howled through the room, scattering the salt, killing the flames. The ritual was breaking. Claire screamed, "We need the final phrase, the severing." She flipped to the last page, then stopped. It was missing, torn out. The ritual was incomplete. "No, no, no," she cried. "It's not here." The entity surged forward, even as its body burned. It reached through the dying flames toward Claire. And then, Jess stepped into the circle. She was crying, smiling. "Take me," she whispered. We shouted, begged her not to, but she just looked at us. "It already has me. It's had me since the motel. I just didn't want to say it." The flames flared around her, and the entity paused, turned to Jess, and nodded. Her body lifted, hovering, limbs limp as the thing merged with her, twisting, absorbing, becoming. She screamed once, then silence. She was gone, and so was it. The shadows receded. The air lifted. The circle burned out. Claire collapsed, sobbing. I held her, unable to speak. Ryan lay unconscious near the fireplace, his skin pale, his breath shallow. Whatever had used him like a skin suit was gone now. But something told me he wouldn't be the same. We stayed there until dawn, too afraid to move, too broken to think. When the sun finally rose, the house looked empty again. But we knew better. Conclusion of part 4. We thought that giving it what it wanted would be the end. That maybe Jess's sacrifice had sealed it. But some things don't end. They wait. And as we left that place one final time, I saw something in the upstairs window. A face with no features. Watching. Smiling. Because midnight comes every night. And it's always looking for another way in. Midnight has come and gone. The house is behind us. Jess is gone. Ryan is no longer himself. But the truth? It never ended. You can't run from something that lives in your shadow. You can't escape what remembers you. We thought the ritual failed because a page was missing. But the truth is more terrifying. It was never meant to work. We buried Jess in the woods behind Lenora's cabin. No one said a word during the makeshift funeral. Claire sobbed into my jacket. Ryan stood like a statue, his face pale, eyes distant. There was something hollow about him now, something unreachable. As the last pile of dirt covered her grave, Claire whispered something I couldn't hear. "What was that?" I asked gently. She looked up at me, eyes wide. "She's not at peace," she murmured. "I can feel it. She's still trapped inside it." That night, sleep was impossible. Every creak of the cabin floorboards sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind howling outside felt like whispers. And when I did finally drift off, I dreamed of her, just standing at the edge of the woods, mouth open in a silent scream, skin peeling, eyes black. "You left me," she mouthed. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. Claire was sitting at the foot of the bed, clutching the book. "There's more," she said flatly. "What?" She flipped the cover open. Beneath the back flap, hidden between the binding and the cardboard, was a folded sheet of yellowed parchment. The missing page. Ryan walked in, shirtless, pale, but something about him felt wrong. His voice was off, slightly distorted. "You found it," he said. Not a question, more like a statement. Claire hesitated. "Yeah." He smiled. "Good. Then we can finish this." We stared at him. My instincts screamed to run, but something stronger, maybe guilt, maybe hope, made me stay. Claire read the page aloud. "What is joined in shadow must return to the dark. The vessel must be broken. The origin must be undone." "The origin?" I asked. "What does that mean?" Claire looked at me, her face pale. "It means we were wrong. This thing didn't attach itself to us in the house." She turned the page. "We brought it there." Silence. "What?" I whispered. Claire flipped to the very front of the book. Scrawled in handwritten ink were coordinates. A location far north, deep in a stretch of forest known locally as Old Rook's Hollow. A place I'd never heard of before. but Claire had. My grandmother used to tell stories about it, she said. She said that was where the veil between life and death wore thin. That things slipped through. We knew what had to be done. If this was where the entity originated, that's where we had to go. That night, we packed everything. The book, the totems, Jess's necklace, and the last of the sage. We left Lenora's cabin before sunrise. The road was long, twisting, endless trees and fog as thick as milk. And then we arrived. A clearing in the woods. Silent. Wrong. The trees formed a perfect ring around it like they were watching. In the center was a shallow pit of stone. A crude altar, old and moss-covered. Surrounding it were bones, animal and human. "This is it," Claire whispered. "The breach." Ryan stood unnaturally still. Then he turned and looked at us, and we saw the truth. He wasn't Ryan anymore. Hadn't been for days. "Thank you for bringing me home," he said in that low, distorted voice. The body served its purpose. His flesh shifted in front of us, stretching like melted wax. His limbs elongated. His eyes rolled back, vanishing into black sockets. He cracked his neck, once, twice, and then he laughed. Not Ryan. Never Ryan. He'd been a carrier, a Trojan horse. We tried to run, but the woods bent in on themselves. Trees stretched unnaturally, forming a dome around the altar. No escape. Claire screamed and flung the necklace into the pit. The entity flinched. The skin bubbled. "It remembers her," she said. "It can't absorb what's already broken." She flipped open the book, began reading the final severance. "Origo umbri, destrui, sacrificium, resolvitor." The wind picked up. The ground trembled. The altar split open, revealing a dark void beneath. The shadows around us wailed in fury, grasping at our feet. My skin burned where they touched me, and then Jess appeared. Not twisted, not demonic, just glowing faintly, her eyes full of tears. "You have to push it in," she whispered. "You have to force it back." The entity howled, flailing. Claire threw the burning sage at it. It shrieked, backing away from the pit. But it wasn't enough. We lunged together, Claire and I, grabbing its limbs, its writhing, sickening flesh. It was like holding wet rope and fire all at once. We shoved with everything we had, teetered. Then Jess screamed something from the other side. "Now!" And the shadows snapped. The thing fell backward into the pit. And as it did, it took Ryan's body with it. We tried to hold on, but he smiled at us. "Let go," he whispered. "It's better this way." And he vanished. The pit sealed. The trees stilled. The air grew still. It was over. The wind died. The woods went quiet. Claire collapsed. Caught her in my arms. Jess's voice whispered once more in the breeze. "Thank you." Then she was gone. Conclusion. That was 6 months ago. We never told anyone the full story. Who would believe it? Claire moved across the country. We talk sometimes, but there's always something off in her voice, like she's listening to someone else while we speak. Me? I still see Ryan in my dreams. Not as he was, but as that thing became. Watching, waiting, and sometimes when I wake up just before midnight, I swear I hear something breathing under the floorboards. Because once it knows you, it never really leaves. You might survive it. You might even trap it. But midnight always comes back. And next time, it won't knock.